Roll the intro. Muskie's Canada at Work, a virtual odyssey. Most people would be exhausted right now. Not a nibble of food since 5 a.m. But I honestly feel like I could run a marathon. I am I can't run a marathon, but I feel like I could. And I'm super excited about my guests. Let me quickly welcome the Parker family. If we could get rid of let's bring everyone into a shared screen size so nobody's face is covered. There we are. There's my team. The only one missing is the mighty Mike Swan. I think he's probably coming. And if he's not, Peter Levick is calling his phone right now. And Mike Swan is probably one of the only people I know who still has a landline. So he'll be calling him from both sides of things. I've had a chance to speak with my team here. Personally, before the lockdown, I was able to stop at the Parker residence, and I've talked to everyone else online. Guys, welcome to my show called Tell Me About, and it's because we have Muskie's Canada that we're doing it. I've been trying to sponsor some activity in the KW chapter, and we now have this show. And so Bill, Josh, the Parkers, John Anderson, welcome everyone. How's everyone doing?
Cheers, everyone. Doing great. I must say, at the beginning, Bill and I never looked so good.
Because of the icons hiding you?
Exactly.
Bill has never looked so good because those baits behind Bill people would kill for those. That's pretty awesome. And I'm really happy with how this show has been going. I think that we have done a good job, and I say we, and that one especially, without prompting from anyone at Muskie's Canada, because it has been a we, and it's been really cool. I've had a blast, and if my math is right, and we've made 15 grand plus whatever they're making, and it's only cost me 300 so far, this is a good day. Hey, thanks, John. I appreciate that. Thanks, guys. Muskie's Canada has done a good thing. We are filling the war chest so that there we go. We got a cheers going on. I will join you. This is non-alcoholic, and so the premise of this is really simple. I came up with this idea, or stole it. I don't know. Maybe if John had this patented, I would be paying him money right now. I'm not sure, but the idea of Tell Me About was supposed to feel like this. It's just 5 or 6 people sitting around and having a fireside chat, talking fishing, and the true reason is I saw Muskie Mondays with the Muskie Factory Bait Company and Muskie Factory, Ottawa River Muskie Factory. I saw John Anderson doing this, and I saw everyone scrambling to provide content in this environment, and it's changed, and it's weird, and we're working on it, but it was really cool. And I put a panel together and had some real kings and murderers row on, and it got 1,000 views in 24 hours. And I thought, wow, this is really cool. This is something that we can work with. We saw the Big Fish panel last year or 2 years ago at the Odyssey, and we wanted to do it again. So you guys are the equivalent of the Big Fish panel. Just this time, you're going to tell us about your best day on the water. And just so all the viewers know, tell me about, but for this episode, it's going to be tell us about your best day on the water. I don't know what some of these guys, and I'm not pointing at Bill Barber right now. I don't know what some of these guys are going to say. It could be about fish. It might not be. Who knows? It could be about walleye. But I know that muskies will make an appearance at some point in time, and so I see this. I'm just going to go in order around clockwise, and so welcoming Bill Barber from Trophy Hunter Charters. Tell me about your best day on the water, Bill.
Well, first off, I want to tell you, Ryan, you guys are doing just an awesome job in this. My hat is off to you. Congratulations, because it's going off marvelous. You really got me baffled here a bit when you asked me for my best day in the water. Of course, you know I'm a guide. And was it like biggest fish, most laughs, best experience? So, you know, I'm just going to give you a quick example of not my biggest fish, but one that was probably the most fun and the most entertaining. Because if you've ever fished a 40-acre shoal, I'm sure most people out there watching have heard about it or fished it. It's quite a wagon train out there in late November and December. It's the same old characters. You know, there's Muskie Ace, Duckboat Dave, Rich Clark, Mike Lazarus was there. And, you know, all these guys are all fishing the same thing. You get in the wagon train and you go around the shoal, you bang the rock piles. You know, you use all your little secret tricks that you've got up your sleeve to try to outfox the other guys that are doing the exact same thing. Well, Frank Shelton and I had just come down from Black Ant, which a lot of you guys be familiar with, and we did the Dooley McCartney run, which is a legendary run that Art Lawton fished and many old-timers fish. And I seen all the boats in the wagon train, and I said to Frank Shelton, who I was fishing with, I said, I'm going to slide right in there. I said, I'm going to drive these hose baits right into that rock pile. Of course, Frank's going, you know, we're going to lose them. I said, no, we won't lose them. You know, they won't hang up on the rocks. So we swung in. I couldn't see anybody. I made sure everybody else was cleared out of the way so that I wasn't cutting anybody. Lose me there, I think. They're back.
Yeah.
I didn't want to cut in line on anybody, so we swung in, made the turn, and just like it was Babe Ruth calling the shot, all of a sudden the line just started screaming. So Frank said, well, you're up. So I jumped up, I grabbed the rod. It was almost dark. And who comes around the corner? Mike Lazarus comes around the corner of the island. I never see him in behind. So he's probably less than 100 yards behind us. And this was a 56-inch fish. So a little bit of the story goes to that too, I'll tell you. It come out of the water and put a show on. So everybody that was there seen this fish jumping and the show and laughing. And, you know, it was a really good time. One of my most memorable times. That was a fish that I've talked about in other seminars, and I've explained to people about air bladders, how they blow up. We put that fish, like it was in my big boat, the Apex Predator. I don't have it anymore. But I got the hooks out. We left the net in the water, got the bump board out, let the bump board down, got the camera ready. Okay, we're going to do this, Frank, quickly, in and out. Put it up on the bump board, and both of us were just like, the girth on this was just absurd. And we're just looking at it. Frank says, I got to put a tape on it. So he put a tape around it. It was almost 29-inch girth. And I said, that can't be right. And right before our eyes, we seen that fish deflate. I know you guys say, what do you mean deflate? It literally went in. And we measured it again, and it was 26.5 inch. But it was that full air from jumping. It must have been gulping air that was going down, and it just expanded its air bladder. Maybe it got some into its stomach, but it just blew it up. It was quite comical and funny. We took pictures of it. I said, you sure you got the pictures good, Frank? Oh, yeah, good. Well, you know how that is, Murphy's Law. So we let the fish go, and of course we all meet at the dock after at the end of the night. We all meet there. We go for a couple of beers at Muskie Jake's, pull out the camera, look at the pictures, and they're so dark you can't even hardly make anything out of them. But it was one of those things. But there's so many times, you know, like I've been very blessed and fortunate to boat a lot of big fish. I fished with some really good fishermen. I know Frank Shelton and Sean Mahar and I fished together. We had a 2-fish day that were both monster fish. And that's probably the most I've ever laughed on a boat. The most fulfilling day that I could say I ever had was I had a father and son team out. The son was 12 years old. He wasn't that big, but he was 12. And we were trolling contours, pounding rock piles. And we went out over top of the deep water. And, I'm trying to explain. I tried to make it an educational experience. And we went over top some deeper water. We were about 160 feet of water. And he said, well, those baits, they'll never see those baits. I said, well, muskies suspend too, up high in the top of the water column. I no sooner got the words out of my mouth, line screamer, the young lad fought. And I mean, it took a lot of line because I don't run with my drags locked down. Of course, guys that fish with me know that. It screamed out a pile of line, and that young lad fought that fish in. And I spent more time taking pictures of his face just to get the look on it because of the excitement in him. That was probably the most fulfilling day that I ever had. It ended up being 53.5-inch fish, almost as long as he was tall. And for years, that was the highlight of my career of muskie fishing. But I've been blessed. Look at the guys here. I know all these guys: Mike Swan, Mike Parker, John, Pete, Josh. These guys. It's a community that we're all blessed to be a part of, and I thank you all very much for including me in your journey.
Oh, you're welcome. I speak for everyone here, and they'll all chip in too. Bill, it's great to see you out there. I've heard you give seminars on fishing the Larry, and some people say, oh, you shouldn't give that information away, and you say, I hit that shoal 74 times from 26 different directions before that fish hit. Me telling them that there's fish there isn't going to help them catch all the fish, and so I never forgot that position. And so, yeah,
that's the truth, Brian.
Yeah,
I'm not a believer in hiding spots, because with the spots that I'm in, my father fished before me. My grandfather fished out there. It's not like anything's a secret out there. The secret is learning, paying attention, and knowing the techniques, having the right baits for sure, and putting them in the right spot. But you have to remember too, it's a tough fishery. You'll hear about it more tomorrow. It's a tough fishery. But if you do get one, man, oh man, I'll tell you, there's no bigger fish in the world. And it's quite a thrill to get them. But if I can make it an educational experience, if you don't catch a fish, at least you go home with a little bit of knowledge you can reapply in your own waters, or come back down and pound the hell out of my waters. Makes no difference to me.
Awesome, Bill. Thanks very much. We're going to keep you in this chat. Don't even think about going anywhere because you want to hear what Josh has to say, I'm sure. Josh, welcome. Your turn to speak.
Okay. Well, first I have to before I start my story, I just want to say, it's really hard just to pick a day.
Oh,
so I mean, no disrespect to all the there's just I could tell it depends on what perspective you want to look at the best day ever. If I'm going to be completely honest, my best days are the days when I'm out with my family and something cool happens and we're catching fish. Even if it's not a big one, those are always probably just going to be the most special. I've even had I've been in situations. I had one guy call me one time and said, hey, my dad's going to, he's got maybe a few months left to live. He's never caught a muskie. He's on an oxygen tank. I know it's kind of a long shot, but, it's on his bucket list. Can we get it done? And being out in the boat and not a dry eye in the boat, right, when he catches his fish. So all kinds of cool stuff like that. But since you kind of call this the big fish panel, I figured I'd pick a day where some kind of cool stuff happened with big fish. This was just a few years ago. I was on Lake Vermilion. We were fishing the suspended bite. We were started off the morning. Well, I should just say, first of all, in the morning, I picked up my guest for the day, and it was a guy by the name of Bill Sohn from the Chicago area. And he had his 13-year-old grandson with, and later in the day, his daughter also jumped in. So kind of 3 generations. And it was a really strange, somber start to the trip, because when they got in my boat, you could just tell they were kind of moping and kind of not in the best mood. And Bill looked at me and just said, it's been a really rough week. We really need a fish. And so, and I was definitely feeling a little pressure.
No pressure. No pressure.
They they'd had some things not go well on the trip, and there was just some stuff, even just in life in general, like, back home where they weren't able to help, some other things going on. So that was kind of the start to the day, and pretty early on. I remember it was early in the morning because it was I was really paying extra close attention to moonrise and moonset that day because I have I call them pink days. They're for 13 of the last 17 years, the biggest fish in my boat gets caught on one of these days, and it's kind of when the stars align with not just a new moon or a full moon, but also has to do with its distance and proximity to Earth. And the moon was also at its closest point, and so got the big fish vibes. And we'd also just caught a 53.5 the day before. But anyway, the grandson Colin ends up hooking into a 56-incher in the morning, right within a few minutes of moon, casting a beaver over 45 feet of water, and he was a pretty big, strong kid for a 13-year-old, but still he was 13. And when the fish got to the boat, it just powered down and it pinned the rod to my windshield. And, if anyone's ever seen what happens, usually if you load a rod and you just touch it to something, it explodes, like it breaks, right? Like if you're already loaded it up and then you touch it to something hard like that. And so I kind of panicked. I was up there with the net, but it was in this weird spot where sometimes the fish is too close to the boat itself to net, like the boat's in the way, you know what I mean? The hoop hits it. And so that's where it was. It was like literally against the boat. And I'm like, this rod's going to break and the line's potentially going to break and we're going to lose this thing. And so I don't necessarily recommend this, but in the heat of the moment, I ended up kind of stabbing the net down, kind of pinning the fish against the side of the boat, coming up like that to get it in the bag, and then twisting it out and walking it to the back. So we got that one. It was a good day, right? We caught a 56-incher, and it was Colin's second muskie. He had caught one with me, the previous summer they had gone with me. And then that night, Colin's mom and her dad, all three of us are out in the boat and we're trolling. And, we had moon, it was either moonrise or set happening again. And we kind of agreed that it'd been, we put in a long day. I picked him up like at 4:30 in the morning or something. It's probably like 11 at night or something. So, and we took a break in there somewhere. But anyway, we kind of agreed. I'm like, we got to fish through moon. Like it's a pink day. They bite at moon. And so we're trolling and moon comes and, no rods go off. But I usually like to, go with, another 5, 10, 15 minutes, right? Just so you're close. And they were tuckered out. It had already been a good day. So they decided that they were going to, they wanted to pull the plug. And I don't know if I should reveal this. I'm assuming I'm probably not the only guide, that this is like a very like kind of dirty secret that us guides do sometimes. But sometimes you get the muskie tingles, which I had. Like I was like, I just could feel it in my bones that we were going to catch another one. And I didn't want to like hold them hostage, right? So my little trick, I can't believe I'm like revealing this. I don't think I've ever told this out loud before. But so one of the things I do as a guide is when people quit on me and I feel like if I push them a little longer, they'll catch one, I start telling a really good story. And I gauge the length of that story to how long I think it's going to be before we get bit, right? And so I texted one of my guide buddies and they're going to see this because I've never told them this. They'll remember I was telling a story, but they won't know why. And I texted one of my guide buddies and said, my people that I'm with want to quit, but I feel like they're going to bite. And then I said, story time. So I started telling this story, right? And like in the middle of the story, the rod goes off and Kelly, it's Kelly's turn on the rod and she catches it and it's a 55-incher. So we end up catching a 56 and a 55 in the same day. And it was Kelly's first muskie and Colin's second muskie. And Grandpa, at least, right? Bill understood. He had fished muskies his whole life, like the rarity of like something like that happening, like getting two fish that size, in the same day. And I know you guys got more big fish up there in Canada, but in my neck of the woods, like that's just like, man, that's pretty like against the odds to have something like that happen. So that's my story.
It's a great story. And just so everyone knows, I know the questions I ask are way more difficult than they seem when you just look at the words on paper. Hearing the question I have to think to myself, how the heck would I answer that too? And so, thanks very much. That's cool, and it's totally acceptable to give me multiple snippets of multiple days like that. And so, thanks a lot, Josh. Don't even think about leaving, John Anderson. I'm excited to hear your story, sir. So please come on out.
Peace to you, Mike Swan.
Hey, peace, my brother.
It's a privilege to be on your panel. What an amazing production today to watch. What a high quality production. It looks organized and professional, makes you proud to be a Muskies Canada member for sure. Kudos to all the volunteers and to you. I didn't know where to go with this. It's a weird question. It sounds like sitting talking about yourself. And, you know, as a guide, I have the same thing to say as the other guides. All my greatest days ever, and we have a lot of greatest days ever, but they're not about us anymore. I don't think for any of us. They're about sharing somebody else's greatest day ever, and we get to be a little piece of everybody else's greatest day. And you know, that's our greatest days over and over for all of us. But you know, I thought about what to do with this today, and so I have a story called the butterfly effect, a muskie edition. I want to say to Mike Swan, I had a greatest day ever. You know, a couple of them with Mike Swan, you know, but one that just I remember every detail for a long, long time. And so sharing those greatest days, you know, a real privilege. This story is an ode to my muskie mentor, Ken Stunnell. I had a mentor when I was young who taught me, introduced me to this, and showed me what it was all about. And so I sent a couple of pictures to Ryan Fagundo earlier today. You can go to the other one first, Ryan, because I just brought up my I made things difficult. Lisa's always there.
I believe Lisa has swooped in and is doing the administrative duties.
Awesome. So you said earlier on the practice sessions, John's a technical wizard. He doesn't need any practice. I don't know how to do any of this, okay? I just say, hey, Lisa, and stuff happens. And so thanks so much, Lisa. This is a picture of Ken from up in Menaki. And this is the story that really old vertical hold fish. That's the fish I want to tell you about. The greatest fishing day of my life. That's 1976. That's Ken Stunnell. So that 1976 fish in Menaki, Ontario, led to a butterfly effect, a big butterfly effect in my life. I, like a lot of you, I grew up catching frogs and sticklebacks in the creek. I had aquariums from when I was 8 because my mom was tired of having dead frogs and tadpoles in the buckets outside, so we'd learn to keep fish alive and just started learning, man. Fish were the most fascinating thing, and I was hooked. And at 13, I learned about muskies on the Rideau River, and I didn't know much, man, but I knew they lived around the rapids in the pools, and they ate marabou jigs, and a big one was like 10 pounds, you know. So this was really incredible stuff, getting access to these giant fish, you know, as a young teenager, what we thought were giant. Got invited to my first muskie trip when I was 15, that 1976 year. My basketball coach, my mentor, the guy in the picture, Ken Stunnell, invited me up to Menaki, Ontario. I didn't really know where that was or how long the trip was or anything, but I got on a train and I was going up there. I had a bag lunch, and you know, Ken, coached me for 3 years. He's a very serious basketball coach. Practice 6 days a week, practice in the summer. You know, taught us discipline, hard work, a lot of good lessons I got as a kid. So I went up to his town. He'd guided there for 10 years, had some land, and he wanted to share this place with me. So I showed up in this mystical town, Canadian Shield town, north of Lake of the Woods and north of Kenora. And everything in this town was about fish. It's a little tiny town in the winter. And in the summer, like so many of the towns up north, it just swells with people who live for fish. And it's a walleye town. Walleye was the money fish in the town. Everybody was a walleye guide, but a muskie was the status fish and the glory fish. and all the cool people chase muskie. And in this place there was people like Gary Roach, who's a massively famous walleye guide. Dick Pearson was fishing there. I didn't know who Dick Pearson was at the time, but he's in the neighborhood. Buck Perry is running spoon plugging schools. He's the founder of structure fishing. We're watching these guys with stupid little rods and colored line troll up and down in front of the town. It's got an amazing community. And Jake McDonald, who went on to become famous writer. So this is a community that I got introduced to, and they had a tournament called the Annual Muskie Hunt, which was so exclusive you had to get invited to join. And all the cool people in town were in this tournament, and they just lived and died to catch fish in this tournament. Every waking minute, teams of 2 people, and it was all about hunting for muskies. This whole town and all these people lived to hunt for muskies. And these guys, this is the first muskie community I ever met. And, it was about competition. It was about pride. It was all kinds of different people from different places. Americans, guys from Ottawa, Toronto, dentists, a bunch of teachers, lawyers, just a whole community of people, and a real crazy group of people. If you finished in the top 3 in this tournament, you got to be on the board of dictators. If you had the most inches, you were the head dictator. You got to make a whole lot of stupid rules and punish people and be king of Menaki for a year. So, this muskie hunting, this was serious. And, they had codes of honor. This is 1976, about releasing the fish and handling the fish and looking after the fish. And this is the first time I'd heard about this, so all new stuff to me. And, they had rules about respecting other people and staying away from them. So much so that one of the rules that stuck with me when my mentor went to the banquet, he'd caught a fish close to Browner, who was the head dictator, on a weed bed, and Browner thought he was too close. So he got the name Poacher, and they gave him a big wooden prick at this banquet because he was a poacher and he fished too close to somebody else. And so, there was rules to muskie fishing and decorum, and you had to treat other people with respect, and you stayed away from them. So, my first time up there in Menaki, I caught that fish during the muskie hunt, and everybody in town came to me and congratulated me. They all knew, every restaurant, the gas pump, Batty X bait shop, and they congratulated you and asked you about it. And wow, it was so special. So this is the muskie community I met through catching that fish. Now, Ken, as my mentor, stayed my friend my whole life. I still go and hang out with Ken, and I still talk with muskies. Fast forward about 8 or 9 years later, Ken's one of the first members of Muskies Canada in Ottawa. He's the first Muskies Canada guy that I knew, and he talked really highly of this club and how it's about learning. And he brought me an article that I carefully lost to show you on telemetry tracking study that just got me hooked on telemetry studies and science. And a few years after that, the Ottawa chapter ran an ad in the paper promoting a telemetry study and looking for people to contribute fish to it. And so I joined Muskies Canada Ottawa 20 years later, after finding this community and then going to work and becoming a part of it as a guide for a few years, and then I got away from it. But 20 years later in Ottawa, when I joined Muskies Canada through my mentor, because of this fish, I found this community of people in Ottawa that was just like these amazing people that I'd met up north. It was so diverse, but it was like up north only on steroids. It was all the cool lure makers like Mike Parker and and the Rob Days in the world. It was all the biologists, the researchers, and it was all people questing for knowledge. The crest said sport fishing and knowledge on it, and it was all people who wanted to learn. And 25 years ago, you couldn't learn the way that you can now on the internet. You learn by sitting in a circle at the Legion with a beer in front of you and telling stories with Bill Barber, and Mike Swan and those guys. And that was a community, And so that fish that I caught when I was 15 years old through a butterfly effect, and finding a group of just the most passionate, the most characters, the most eccentrics, the most passionate people. You know, I live a privileged, diverse life. I have a lot of different communities, but this Muskie community is just people filled with passion, people who care about the fish, people who care about the water, people who care about learning, people who care about each other. And so that fish led me to be a guide to where I am today, because I learned that back then that people would pay you money to go fishing too, back on that 15-year-old trip. Now, not a lot of money. Being a guide is probably the worst way to make a lot of money in truth in the end. But it's a road to a lot of happiness, and it's a road to being part of a great community and to living the musky life. And I feel so privileged. And I got here because of that fish and because of my mentor, and someone cared when I was young. So that's my story about my greatest day ever.
What a
Well,
great
that
story.
Well spoken.
Well done.
All right.
Really
Okay.
a tough act to follow. You know, I did hear a guy say that you can become a millionaire by being a fishing guide. All you have to do is start with 2 million. And
Probably 3 or 4.
and you know, I had to fill in earlier today with a couple of really great guides, and they talked about how much work it is. They weren't doing it on purpose. They didn't even know that they were scaring the life out of any would-be future guide. But these guys were spending a long time explaining all the work they do while they're on the boat. And so when you get done guiding, I'm sure it's hard to keep your eyes open or lift your arms. And speaking of guides, we have handlebars, which, by the way, are spectacular today. Those handlebars are the envy of anyone with handlebars. And so
Thank you there.
looking good. I feel like a junior right now. And so take us to school.
Thank you, Billy. I just want to come for a bike ride with Bill. That's why I'm trying to grow it out. Maybe you'll invite me along.
I'll be there if I'm allowed. So Mike Parker, tell me and tell us about your best day on the water, sir.
So I know you were expecting myself, well, and normally my wife's with me, but I have my daughter with me today. As everybody knows, my family and people who have got to know us, whether you know us personally or just at the shows or see us online, one comment that I always love hearing about is everything for us is about family. Like I could talk about like the fish that one there, that was caught on a double header with a buddy of mine, or the one in the picture. That one there was caught with Tom Morris. That was another awesome story. But every time I was sitting here thinking about what big fish story to tell or what is my most memorable day on the water, it all led back to family. 110% for me, it's about family, whether, like Josh said, and I know all the guys on the screen here know exactly what I'm going to say, like, or how I feel. Like when you get on the water and you show up there at the boat dock and you see a husband and wife, father and son, mother, daughter, anybody together, sharing and making memories together. That's what it's about for me. So, yeah, it's not just myself today. I got Jade with me. So,
welcome, Jade.
Hello.
And like Jade, she actually has 2 of the Swan trophies.
Oh,
And yeah, she got her first one when she was about 8 years old, and that one she got a 49 3/4 and got a biggest fish, most fish, and took home all the trophies there at the Bell River chapter there that year. But no, we're going to talk about one day when Kevin Reed and I we were fishing down at Bell River, and I get a text from Jade. It's Friday, and she was gone away to college. And she just asked how my day was going. So I said, oh, going great, kiddo. I was just down here at Bell River fishing with Kevin. And on Friday, she got done school. I thought she was done at noon, but apparently she's done at like 2 or 3, because she would always show up around 4 o'clock at home. And then I said, oh, yeah, we're just nailing the fish. Like, it was a great day. We're pounding them. And she says, oh, well, I'm done school. And yeah, about seems like half hour later or 20 minutes later, she's at the dock waiting for Kevin and I to get back with the boat to pick her up. So I'll let her finish off this part of the story because we got to the dock and she's standing there waiting for us and hops on the boat. And this is one of our favorite days together.
Oh yeah, I ended up leaving my English class early. I just stood up and walked out. Dad said, "Go, come fishing in Bell River." I said, "All right, I'm on my way." And yep, so I get on the boat, and I think we turn one corner, start putting the lines out, and we don't even get the second line out, and the first one's already got a fish on it. So I get up and we're reeling that one in, and as I'm in the middle of reeling that one in, Dad's reeling in the one he just put out, and he caught one at the same time. We had a double header, literally the first 5 minutes that we started fishing.
Like we're allowed on Lake St. Clair, out in the main lake, you're allowed 2 rods per person. So we're allowed 6 rods, and we had 6 rods rigged up, ready to go out. And I literally just put that one rod in actually Jade set that one and put it in the rod holder. She even say that. And I'm set one rod out and I'm just starting to let the line out another one. She's like, "Dad, I got a fish." And I look over, I'm like, "What?" And yeah, sure enough, here she is. She's already fighting this fish. And I look over at the line that I'm setting out. So it's got a planer board. So the lure is actually floating on the surface. And because she said she had a fish, I put my thumb on the spool just to stop it from going out so I didn't get it tangled with the other line. And at the time I turned to look and turned back, the bait went down, and yeah, I got one also. So it's like, here she's skipping school, which I'm not proud of, but that is definitely my daughter, and to go fishing. So, it's the passion that we have. That's our huge connection. I'm so proud of her because she's actually going this year. She's going to be up for all you guys up in the Kawartha Lakes. She's going up there. She did the police foundations for 2 years, and now she's going back to school for the Ministry of Natural Resources program up in Lindsay. And that's one of the things. Like, I know I could have talked about some big fish stories, but to me, it's all about family. And you know what? Getting to your time together with family, you're only around once, and make those memories. Like, get your friends out there and get anybody out there that you can, just to try to make those memories, because that's all you're going to have at the end there. And you know what? She's growing up. She's 21 now and going to school. So who knows where she's going to be fishing? I know she's already got a long list of invites to fish up in the Kawarthas. So who knows? Maybe November she'll be taking my seat in Bill's boat up there.
That's some good dadding right there, Mr. Parker. There might have been a little dust flying around in here that got in my eye.
And I definitely want to keep it short so Mr. Swan can get his story in there.
Well, the good news is
I'm hard to talk. I am hard to find words and keep them going. So
I am the host. I get to decide. Nobody can cancel me. I'm running this broadcast, so we can go rogue if we want. And we are, now that there is no wrap-up show, we are also the wrap-up show. I might say a few words after. Mike Swan, how many phone calls did you get saying that you were not on the line?
2 from Peter.
Okay. All right. So I'm glad. I'm so glad you made it. We're all glad you made it. The Swan Storage and Moving Trophy. And Mike Swan deserves a lot of credit here, guys. Yeah, Bill, he's
Well
got
done,
some. Everyone's got some.
They're downstairs.
I had to borrow this one. This is not mine, sadly. I've come in second place for the Swan Trophy 3 darn times. This is my year, though. This is definitely my year. And so, Swan Moving and Storage. They pay for all of these. Mike Swan pays for all of these, and so they deserve. If you want to know why I'm not promoting another moving company, it's probably because Swan's is better, but it's also because he supplies the Swan Moving and Storage. And so, Mr. Swan, thank you so much for being here. Tell me about your best day on the water, and that's got to be the most impossible question for you to answer.
Well, first about the Swan trophies, it's a great honor for me to give them out, and it's me that feels the reward of distributing the trophies. Second, I must say I'm in good company today, and happy to sit here. And third, the odyssey that you and all your team has put together today, Ryan, is fabulous. Thank you. A really, really good effort. my story is about my most fun day on the water, and it by chance started at an Odyssey as well too. The Odyssey started with a combination of effort from the Kitchener chapter and the Hamilton chapter. First, we had the first two Odysseys on Lake Ontario at Jordan Harbor, and the year we moved it to St. Catharines, I was working in the Muskie Canada booth. While I was in the booth, Paul Gasparino and Tom Long came to get me. He says, Mike, you have to come talk to this guy. I says, fine. So we went down to the Rampage Charter booth at the Muskie Odyssey in St. Catharines, Ontario. There we met Terry and Debbie, the owners of that charter business. A funny story, just as we arrived, there was a little bit of tension building between Duck Boat Dave and Terry Vanderweer. Terry was publishing a figure on his booth that they had caught 800 fish that year. And Duck Boat Dave didn't believe that. And he said that to Terry. And that didn't go over very, very well. And so both their faces were turning a bit red. And Terry was about to step out of the booth when Tom, Paul, and I stepped between them and started talking about your booth and booking a charter and what you're all about. And so we agreed with Terry that we would book a charter and fish with them that year. Tom Long did his homework. He looked at the weather charts. He consulted the Farmer's Almanac. He looked at the moon and the fishing phases, and he picked out the dates we would go. So at 8 o'clock in the morning, the three of us get on Terry's boat, and the boat's like a Rampage boat. That comes the name of the chart. That's the name of the charter business. So we head out into the water, and Terry set up. This is my first day on Lake St. Clair, so I'd never seen people set up with the planer board and the mast and the 10 rod spread. So we pull out of the Lighthouse Cove, we turn to the right, we run along what they call the posts, or they call them the posts or the fence posts there, the stakes. We went along the stakes there, and we had our first fish in 20 minutes. That particular day, we got 19 fish for 24 strikes, virtually a fish every 20 minutes. And Tom and I were happy to fish, but Paul Gasparino was giggling like a school kid. He was so happy to catch fish like that and put fish in the boat like that. And we had so much fun. So for me to be there, it was fun to catch fish, but for me to be there when Paul was having such a good time. And so that's what really cemented my day and made the most fun day in the water. I've got a few pictures here that I might run, please, Lisa, if you've got those pictures up. So, yeah, we'll slow down a little bit, Lisa. So when we started in the morning, it was fun. It was cooler, and by coincidence, we caught mostly smaller fish. The fish range from about 30 inches. That fish there is probably about 42, 43 inches. Next picture, please, Lisa. And that's a nice fish. That fish is colored different and marked differently. That fish came from deeper water in the middle of the day. I noticed midday when the water warmed up, the size of the fish increased.
Oh.
Next fish. That's another fish that Paul got. That's probably like an early 40 fish. The fish went from about 30 inches to about 43 inches, 44 inches. There's our captain, Terry. And that one, I'm not sure. That's that one I don't know anything about. Yeah. And that one I don't know anything about. So we'll back off on the pictures, I think, Lisa. Yeah.
Great fish.
Yeah. So it is all about fun. It's all about sharing the experience. It's meeting people, great people. And I learned a lot that day. We caught a lot of fish that day. We made some personal history that day. I also learned about running a big boat with a 10 rod spread and how to fish that situation and how effective you could be at giving the right water situation. That was my most fun day in the water, and I'm glad I got to share it with the people I did.
Awesome. That's terrific. And anytime you can catch that many fish and learn something, and it lasts for years as a positive memory, circling back to Mr. Parker, that's really all we can ask for. And so maybe we can field some questions. But before we go to questions from the audience, is there anyone in the fireside chat that has a question for another person in the fireside chat? And you cannot ask for GPS coordinates. So if anyone has any questions for anyone else on the table, speak now or forever hold your peace, and then we'll get one of our producers, likely Lisa Goodyear, that makes John always look so smart, which he fessed up to tonight. That's a true gentleman.
All Lisa.
If anybody does want GPS coordinates for Bill Barber, I do have them all, and I'll sell them to you.
And cue your inbox blowing up right now.
The sad part is Bill giving them for free. So
give me 1 second here. Mike Parker. E-transfer $50 to Mike Parker.
E-transfer Bill 25. Keep them coming, Bill.
So, all right. If there's any highlighted questions on the side,
Bill, your mic's off there, Bill.
Yeah, well, I'll fix them. Hold on, or they will fix them. Someone will get them.
I think it's on his end.
Yep. So, Bill, there he is. He's back. I'm not touching it. We'll let him go.
Oh, now he can defend himself. Yeah, you're back.
So, Mike.
Yes.
Mike Swan. I'll talk to you later.
Yes.
Mike Swan.
Yeah.
The reason why I got these out, Mike, is, I don't even hardly remember. I vaguely remember the fish that I won these trophies with. But the trophies mean more to me because I know that you put the effort to support Muskie's Canada. And the one thing I'd like to ask you is when you're down, next time you're down again in Aquay, I'd like you to autograph them for me, if you wouldn't mind. Because it means that much to me. Fish I don't remember. But things and events, they do, and this means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to the Muskie Canada world. And I really appreciate it if you would autograph them for me.
Bill, that would be a great honor. I absolutely would. This is 2020. 31, this year is 31 years we've been giving out that trophy. And for me to sign your trophy is a great honor, my friend. Thank you.
Well, it means a lot to me.
Awesome. Maybe we can get a photo of you guys together doing that for the annals of history.
It had to be a photo before 10 o'clock.
Yeah, because we're in bed at 10 o'clock.
So let's see. We're at 6:03. We got a little bit of time. We have stayed on time all day. I started here at 5:30 this morning talking with Peter Levick. I was here until midnight the night before, and I should be exhausted, but I have had the greatest time. And to be honored with closing out the show with the Big Fish panel of 2021, I got to pat Muskie's Canada's back. We did it. And you guys are a part of that. So thanks a lot. Let's see, Mike Swan and his continuing support is outstanding. Russell Hendricks, we couldn't have said it better ourselves. Matt O'Brien, who has been kind enough to be on my show, Tell Me About. He's got a question. And so let's see. Do you mark muskies in open water up in the top 6 inches of the water column?
Do you want me to field that one?
Yeah, it's directed right to you, sir.
Okay. Yes, you can mark them really shallow, but it does have to do with the angle of your transducer. Kind of the way I've been able to figure out how to mark really shallow muskies is I mounted a mega imaging transducer on my trolling motor. I have an Altera, which allows me to, I can use my remote and trim my motor up and down in the water column. And then I have to tip the transducer slightly so it's angled, and then I can control Like if I want to look really high, like I can see all the way to the surface. I can just trim my trolling motor so the transducer is just barely in the water. But I will say the one challenge with that is when you get up that high, if there's any kind of wind, the waves will distort the image and you won't be able to see it. So it's not always like super possible to do that. And then obviously if you have live viewing sonar, you can see them riding high too if you play with your angles as well.
Excellent. Anything else hiding in the comment section that we can add in, or should I fill up the time that we have left? This is typically when Lisa would pop her face in to make sure you understand what you're supposed to do, John. But I will field it on my own and interrupt myself. If you guys have questions, we have some monsters on the screen. Now's your time. And so it is last call for information from these folks for tonight. There are muskies in Tattoo Lake downstream of White Dog on the Winnipeg. They are not in the Castleman or OMNR survey data, in their older survey data. Was John A. aware of those fish in his time there? As a Manitoban, we are interested in perhaps solving the mystery of why they are not downstream. So, John, any thoughts on? It's a two-part question.
Yeah, the muskies in the Winnipeg River system. It's a real curiosity because the Winnipeg River goes north out of Kenora and swings around, and that system connects into Lake Winnipeg. So you have incredible muskies in Lake of the Woods. You have incredible muskies in the Winnipeg River and the English River in that area. But past the Rough Rock Dam, it's really sketchy what happens with the population. However, the last few years, there's fish that have shown up in Lake Winnipeg, and some really big fish. And they're starting to see, as far as I know, a few more. This goes back a couple of years. But yeah, some giant specimens. So the domain of the muskies up there isn't much to prove that they're in the section of the river beyond the Menaki area, beyond the Rough Rock area, but they're before it, they're past it, and we don't catch all the muskies, and sometimes they move long distances. So, I wish I had more to share on you. That's why there's more research necessary.
All right, guys, we have come to the end. I hear a steak and a beer literally calling my name. And so I want to thank each and every one of you. I am so glad that I know you guys. I am so proud that I've got to make friends with several of you, and the ones I haven't had on my boat yet. Your time is coming, and it's not optional. I'm just going to show up with my boat and bang on your door and save maybe Mike Parker. You guys won't have a chance in stopping me. And so on that happy note, if I could get my producer to start canceling these guys out. Guys, thank you.